just want to say before we get underway, everybody, great job. Ken, you're the man. We're gonna own this thing.
Thank you. Yeah, big shout out to all you guys for making this happen. It was really cool to see the kind of impact that we're able to do here, and I'm excited to get into this. So we are just connected to YouTube now.
I just want to say before we get underway, everybody. Okay.
So we're live on YouTube right now, guys. We are live. So the event is officially started. I'm going to get into it here. So to everyone watching, welcome to All Our Block presented by Block Relations. This is an event, an experience dedicated to fighting racial injustice and elevating the need for greater levels of equality, equity, diversity, and inclusion within the tech and blockchain industries. So a little bit about Block Relations. We are a public relations and marketing service provider. We offer services such as social media account management, including timelines and strategy. We offer educational courses, analytics reporting. We create marketing content, custom videos, press release publication, written articles. We also do community building. We host events like the one you're seeing here. We can also place speakers in other events that they want to target. We create impact campaigns similar to the one that we're creating now. And we also do digital presence analysis and performance reviews. And when COVID-19 allows for it, we will do on-site training. So enough about Block Relations, guys. I wanted to give a little bit of overview of how the structure will work today. We're slated for 2 hours here, maybe less, maybe a little more, but we'll just work through it. So first, I will introduce the hosts, and then I will get into the quick introduction of the panelists and our media partners. And then we're going to follow up with deeper questions aimed at each individual panelist. And then we're going to open it up for more general questions where if anyone has insights, feel free to chime in when we ask these more general questions. And then we're going to get into a demonstration of GUAP Coin by Tavania Evans. Really, really excited for that. We're going to get into what is GUAP Coin, how to purchase it, how to use it, a little bit of a demo there. So, and then we're going to go into highlighting a list of Black-owned businesses in Boston. And then we're going to wrap things up with a demonstration of a little donation function that we paired with this event. So not only did we want to give you a place to discuss and ask some questions with industry leaders, but we also want to have that next action step, which is the donation function. And we actually unofficially worked with all, the Giving Block in order to set up this donation link. So without further ado, the hosts of this event are myself, co-founder and CEO of Block Relations and CEO of Crypto Lively, Steve Vilkas, co-founder and director of intelligence of Block Relations, Benton Yuan, media operations director of Crypto Lively. And getting into the panelists, I believe CJ will join us in just a few. CJ Stewart is the founder of Diamond Directors and also LEAD. He's using baseball as a vehicle to help Black males, grades 6 through 12, overcome crime, poverty, and racism, and lead themselves forward. We have Mckenzie Stewart, who's the founder of Know Your Truth clothing brand. It aims to shine light on people, places, and things and ideas conveniently left out of our education system. We have Tavania Evans of GUAP Coin, the founder and lead engineer. GUAP Coin is a cryptocurrency that supports Black-owned businesses, HBCUs, and philanthropic organizations. We have Emily Zaccardi, founder of Holler Hype, the voice-based real-time motivation platform designed for unity. We have Martellus, founder of SoCo. His mission is to build new socioeconomic foundations of the Black community, and all starts with @JoinSoCo if you want to find that on social. And then we have Victoria Gonzalez-Cannell, founder of Marmalade. She's also a research assistant at the Tyranny Lab and founder, again, of Marmalade, passionate about the cross-section of science and business. And then finally, we have Christina Liberd, founder and CEO of Viager, AI-powered travel concierge service that creates activity itineraries based on users' likes, dislikes, destinations, time, and budgets. So really cool, all-star studded panel here. And then we do want to give some thanks to our media partners. So we have GUAP Coin, which is the cryptocurrency that promotes spending Black. Let your money speak loud and proud. Again, demo coming of that later. We have Crypto Lively, who we're doing the live stream through. So for all you guys watching on YouTube, you're watching on the Crypto Lively channel there. We want to thank them for coming in as a cryptocurrency news and media platform that is also doing this live stream again. And then we have finally Venture Cafe of New England. They're connecting innovators and making things happen. And they do shared workspaces throughout New England. So be sure to check out Venture Cafe in District Hall. All right, guys, we got that long-winded intro out of the way. So now we are actually going to jump into individual questions. And I just want to make sure we have everyone here that should be here. I'm looking for Benton. Benton, are you on the line? We don't have Benton. Steve, do you want to see if you can reach out to Benton to make sure he's doing all right there?
Yeah,
okay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. So for now, I'll just take Benton's questions. He was going to start with CJ and Mckenzie, but I'll leave those two panelists for Benton when he arrives. And I will start with Tavania. So Tavania Evans is, again, the lead engineer behind GUAP Coin and the founder. So Tavania, do you want to take this time and tell us a little bit about what exactly is GUAP Coin?
Well, GUAP Coin is a decentralized cryptocurrency that I developed. And we started out with one reason, and it quickly exploded into many reasons why we needed GUAP Coin. There's the personal reason, and that is, as a founder and as an engineer, I had other projects that I worked on, and I quickly found out that Black women don't get funded for tech projects. So I was like, whoa, no money there for these projects that we were trying to do. And another reason is because in my mind, and I have a very analytical mind, I'm a data scientist as well. In my mind, when you're talking about supporting Black-owned businesses and buying Black, I think that's almost impossible to do with the dollar. You know what I mean? So how do we're talking about, we're trying to support these businesses. Where do we get the growth metrics? How do we really follow the money? Like, you know, there's all types of stories about how the money goes into the Black community. And I mean, well, is in the Black community and leaves the Black community. How do we track all of these things? And then of course, being in blockchain, I was like, this is the perfect tool to be able to track the impact we could make if we say that, yes, we're going to be supporting these businesses in our community. So we created GUAP Coin. Our first iteration of the blockchain was, of course, an ERC20 token on Ethereum. But it was always my intention to build our own blockchain. Yes, at that point, I was a developer, but I never built a blockchain initially, but got there. So we had about 1, 2, 3 versions, and our final blockchain was launched last summer, actually. So we're a year old. We're pretty fairly stable. We have wallets on every platform, and we are now on exchanges. And we also now in ecosystems like coin payments, et cetera, where merchants can actually use GUAP Coin. So we've really accomplished a lot in the last year.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So I think I might have missed it a little bit. So it's not an ERC20 token, it's its own blockchain.
Yeah, we have our own blockchain with proof of stake, Quark Algo. We are a latter fork of Dash. And the reason why I chose Dash, because of course the merchant model that Dash fits, I thought that would be perfect for us. And we also a Masternode coin. And the reason why we chose Masternode, being a Masternode coin, was how we need to inject some type of governance in this. You know what I mean? Because, you know, our community, of course, there's a huge digital divide in blockchain with Black and Brown community and this technology. So we knew that we was going to have to bridge that divide, and that was going to take some time. And that's also going to take some type of governance and some type of accountability. And that's something that masternodes and masternode holders, which we call governors on GUAP Coin, help to provide.
Wow, that's excellent. I'm really excited to hear that it's proof of stake based. Some of my favorite coins in the ecosystem are proof of stake based. So I guess technical question would be like, what kind of staking return do the validators receive annually?
Well, it's not annual return. Staking is like daily returns. Okay. And if you're talking about the masternodes receive 80% of the block reward, and the stakers receive 20% of the block reward. So that can be dependent on where we are, because right now we're nearing the 500,000 block, which would be our official halving. Our masternodes were earning 40 coins per reward, which in a day at one point our masternodes were earning up to like between 500 and 600 coins. So it's a lot of coins. And that's something to get people excited about. And unfortunately, you got to get people excited about blockchain for them to really get it, because what we get a lot, especially on social media, is I'd like to participate in that, but I really don't know anything about it. But then as soon as you get them to get like a masternode share, because we allow for people to get masternode shares, as soon as you allow them to get a masternode share to their wallet and they start seeing coins come in, they get really excited. They're like, okay, this is something, So we have to build up the excitement. There's so many things that we have to do. Yes, you have to educate people, but we don't have enough time in the world to educate everybody on this and then actually put it into use. My perspective on entering into or bringing this to the people is we have to tell them that this is money. This is how money is created and that we can use this as money. So that's another thing to get people really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know a lot about that. You really have to get people excited to get them to engage with the tech and learn more about the coins and what they offer. And so I'm glad you recognize that. So how has GUAP Coin already made an impact within the Black and Brown communities? And what do you envision for its future, let's say another year down the road?
Well, I think another year down the road, one of the major projects that I'm really in love with that we're going to be launching soon is our data platform. So we're currently working on a dashboard that can measure the metrics of the coin circulation amongst merchants and consumers. So we want to show everybody the power of the transparency of the blockchain and the power of being able to visualize the growth. You know what I mean? Because to embark on a project and say, yes, we're going to support, let's say, all of these businesses in our neighborhood, but we're not, then you see businesses close down, or you see maybe this business grows. You don't really get to see what's going on and how we can fix it. So for me, I'm a data scientist. So to me, you can fix it through data. That's how you're going to fix it. That's how you're going to be able to look at the numbers and see, whoa, this is really making an impact here. Look at how many merchants we have. Look at how much money is circulating and what impact it's making. I think that's going to be the greater contribution that GUAP Coin is going to make. So that's what I'm really excited about to see for 2021. In terms of the impact we've made now, I think we've educated a lot of people on crypto. We definitely made them aware. We've educated them on crypto, and we're probably one of the only masternode coins that has so many women. You know what I mean? So even besides the fact that it's Black and Brown people, we actually have a lot of women. 80% of our masternode holders are women. So that's like unheard of. So not only are we bridging the digital divide between people of color and blockchain, but we're also bridging the divide between women and blockchain. So I find that really impactful and exciting. And it's just so much. Every day it's a new thing. But I think for us, it's more of an ownership thing, a legacy thing, a pride thing. We need to have legacies, we need to have ownership, and we need to have some level of pride to repair the values that have been damaged in our communities.
Yeah, that's so well said, so elegantly said. And I mean, this is an unprecedented time where it's been happening for so long that there's been these injustices against these communities, but it's almost like boiling to a surface now, where we're seeing so many protests happening. And that's why, again, we wanted to host this event here to bring more insights to our communities and just to ask some questions, ask some tough questions. So I guess, how would you envision like the path forward to bring more equality to society in general? We can talk within the USA.
I think we need to start with the systems, of course. You know what I mean? We have to start disrupting the systems, because, that's what blockchain kind of taught us about disruption. Blockchain is a thing that, cryptocurrency is something that disrupted our financial system, and no one could really do anything to stop it. So I think the big thing is disruption. So we have these systems that have been in play for so long, and people have been complacent with them. So how do we disrupt them? you know, because once we disrupt them, now we can introduce new solutions, new technologies, maybe new things that can just change the whole flow and direction of these organizations or institutions. So I think that's a huge thing. And I honestly, I think it all came from blockchain. I think blockchain started the whole fight. So, you know what, we can have freedom, we can have economic freedom. Oh my God, let's, you know, that's just going to spread into all different types of areas of life.
Absolutely. That's some valuable insights there. And I'm glad that you shared that with us. And Benton, do you want to pick it up with CJ?
Yeah. So thank you all panelists for joining us today and audience members. Real quick, just background story between me and CJ. I have known CJ since I was 10 years old. Started hitting lessons with him and playing baseball for him. And I have known him for a while. And the reason why I wanted to have him on the panel today was when the George Floyd killing happened, I specifically reached out to CJ and asked, how can I help? What can I do for the Black community? Enough is enough. I'm sick of watching this. What can I do as a white man living in America? And he told me, you're asking the wrong question. It's not helping. It's how can you serve the Black community? How can you serve their purpose? How can you serve their cause? So he is a mentor to me. I love him to death. And today we're going to get to pick his brain because the last 40 days, I have been talking to CJ every day, and he made me a deal. He says, listen, you want to help? He says, every day for the next 40 days, you're going to text me and you're going to ask if I can talk. If we can talk, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to answer your questions, every question you have. And he has done that every day for the last, I think we're on day 32 right now. But today we're going to have another question for you. So CJ, with all of that being said, and with your leadership that you have done there in Atlanta with LEAD and Diamond directors, what is white supremacy in your eyes, and what kind of walk us through the history of that in America so that we can educate the audience on this stuff?
So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I view this as an assignment and not an invitation. So if it's an invitation, the answer would have been no. But I really feel like it's an assignment, and it really is on target for where I am in my life. And so my mission for life is to be significant, serving millions, bringing them into a relationship with Jesus Christ, started with my wife, Kelly, my daughter, Mckenzie, who's on the panel as well, and McKenna. Now, with that being said, don't get alarmed. I'm not trying to ask anybody to be baptized and change their religion. I'm just giving you my life purpose. And so my mission. And so when you asked me, I said yes, because it's an assignment and this gives me the opportunity to do that. So white supremacy, first of all, is very different than white people. So racism, before it's about people, it's about power. It's about economics. And so it is a structure, it is not an event. When the root word for racism is race. So it becomes about people when you break us down by race. And so when you think about race, Black versus white, not only are Black people losing, but we've always been losing. We came out the gate losing. And if we don't have any disruption, just like was said by, how do you pronounce your name? Taviana? Tavana. If we don't have any disruption, then we're going to continue to lose. And this country will reach a place where Black folks are just absolutely mad as hell, and that's going to be absolutely destructive. So we do not want that. So again, racism is about power before it's about people. And I think that the issue is even for me as a Black man, for me, when I wake up in the morning, the first person that I'm thinking about is my African-American wife. And then I'm thinking about my 19-year-old daughter, Mckenzie. And then I'm thinking about my 13-year-old daughter, McKenna, both African-American girls. And then I'm thinking about African-American people in general. And then I'm focusing on Benton when he calls. And so there are a lot of people that are white that think about that same thing. You think about white people before you think about Black people. The issue, though, is it becomes structural when it comes down to making decisions where if what you're most comfortable with is white people, then they're going to get yeses and Black people are going to get nos. So I am very optimistic that we can make some changes, but I think that if we can focus on racism being about power before it's about people, and then when we start seeing when it's about people that Black people are losing, then I think we can start making some changes.
Awesome. Now you have a baseball background, having played professionally with the Chicago Cubs. With that in mind, looking at professional sports today, what are some of the biggest things with racism that you're seeing, and how do we bring equality to that space in particular?
So right now, the vast majority of leadership in Major League Baseball are white men. I think that Magic Johnson is a majority owner for the Dodgers. But other than that, I'm not familiar with any other black owners. So that's problematic, especially if you are a white man and you feel more comfortable being around other white men, then that's going to make it difficult for white women, and that's also going to make it difficult for everybody else. So when we start thinking about things being equal, we got to open up opportunities for other people. I mean, white men are just not the most intelligent people on the face of the earth and own all rights to intelligence. We have other people that deserve a shot. I mean, even for me with my credentials, I still got to come into a room and turn into Incredible Hulk to make sure everybody understands that I'm better than most of y'all in here when it comes down to baseball. And I'm tired of that. I mean, I need to be able to walk into the room and my credentials serve as license to be properly positioned and have everybody that's not as good as me be over there. When I come into the room, I'm in the corner. I'm oftentimes the best in the room, and I'm having to fight. And so we were looking at what was that last night, Mckenzie? Was that Incredible Hulk last night on? On the Avengers and all that stuff. I mean, he got tired of being Incredible Hulk. I mean, it's exhausting having to turn into that big green monster and having to come back. So to answer your question, I think that right now you have white men in positions of power that are hiring other white men because they feel more comfortable with them. We got to first acknowledge that, then confess that in order to change that.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your insights with that, obviously. And you and I are going to continue our conversations, and I appreciate the insights that you've been able to provide here today and to me each and every day that we've talked. This is going to segue over to Mckenzie, which is your daughter, CJ. And I wanted to have Mckenzie on the panel today because she has a very interesting story. She's there. She went to high school there in Georgia, is a great, phenomenal tennis player, and she created her own clothing line. I'm actually rocking the t-shirt today. So for those of you who don't know Lost Cause Theory, Mckenzie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your brand, Know Your Truth, and what it's about, and a little bit about yourself.
Definitely. So Know Your Truth, I launched it in partnership with Privy Clothing in August of 2019. It's an empowerment brand that uses apparel to spark discussion about, the people, places, ideas, and concepts that have been intentionally left out of our education system. And I really started Know Your Truth because, I grew up not seeing myself in the curriculum until it was time to talk about slavery. And just from what I was taught at home and in other spaces, I knew that Black people's history didn't start there. And I felt that it was really deceptive and wrong to teach people, like generations of people, that it did. And so I really started Know Your Truth with the intentions of putting more truth out there to combat what, was being taught in schools.
And why don't you explain for everyone, what is the Lost Cause Theory? And explain that to those who may not know what it is.
So the Lost Cause Theory is, so even though the Confederates lost in the Civil War, they still won in the sense that they were able to push this narrative through our education system and the building of, these Confederate monuments and whatnot, that they were heroes fighting for a just and worthy cause. When we know that's false. They were fighting, to keep slavery, and that's not right at all. So that's pretty much what the Lost Cause Theory is in a nutshell.
Okay. Obviously, thank you for sharing that. Now, I'm going to ask you a little bit more of a personal question, but what has been one of the biggest challenges that you have faced personally regarding racism, and what was the biggest takeaway from that?
So biggest challenge that I faced regarding racism. So I went to private school. So I started out in public school, then I went to private school, 5th grade. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced regarding racism is the understanding that, you know, white people can make mistakes and exhibit racist behavior, and they can be given the benefit of the doubt and claim that, you know, it isn't a true reflection of who they are or their values or whatever. But for me as a Black person, specifically a Black woman, you know, I can make a mistake and, you know, it's 100% a reflection of who I am or my values or whatever. And, you know, most times I'm demonized before I even open my mouth or, you know, come into a room just based off of my appearance alone. So just this understanding that I have to navigate the world differently than other people, and I'm commonly not going to be given the benefit of the doubt. So that really has to dictate how.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your experience, CJ and Mckenzie Stewart. If you haven't, go support Mckenzie's clothing line shop, knowyourtruth.com. She has tons of these shirts, a couple different logos on there and stuff like that. We appreciate you guys coming on, and I'm going to hand it back over to Ken. Thank you guys, CJ and Mckenzie, for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, some absolutely valuable insights there, and so glad to have you guys here with us and sharing those. So to all the panelists, you guys watching on YouTube and here on the webinar, if you guys have questions, feel free to just type those in and we'll get to them as they come. So next we're going to hand it off to Steve, and he's going to talk to Emily Zaccardi of Holler Hype.
Sweet. So Emily, nice to meet you. I think we might know each other, quite possibly. Let's see. So first of all, I love this story. Can't wait for you to share it with all of us watching here. Tell us all about Holler Hype. Emily? Is she?
Screen might have froze up there. Let's see. Emily, can you hear us? It looks like your screen froze. If you want to maybe try disconnecting and reconnecting, Emily, we'll see if we can bring you right back in. So
Bad luck me.
just as the question was, so we'll pause on Emily and we'll move to the next panelist up is going to be Victoria. And Benton, would you like to fire away on those questions? Yep.
Awesome. I had the opportunity to virtually meet Victoria here a couple weeks ago, and brilliant mind. Victoria, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What are you doing with Marmalade? And tell us a little bit what you got going on.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, as you guys know, my name is Victoria. A little bit of background on myself. I grew up in Venezuela, so South America, and I moved here with my family about 7 years ago now. So long time now, but it still feels short. My background is on research and biomedical engineering. And with Marmalade, that is my baby right now, Marmalade. The goal is to sell high quality jam that is tasty, you know, healthy and everything. And part of those funds that we collected that we send back to a partner school back in Venezuela to support teacher knowledge growth and resource expansion. So anything that goes from, you know, just a course online to having new computers or even transportation when they can't get from their homes to the school. So that's on Marmalade. And I believe Kenneth mentioned earlier, I do work at the Tuning Lab, and that's just biomedical research and another passion of mine.
Awesome. Now, what are one of the most critical changes that you feel we must make, having been an entrepreneur and starting your own company? What have you experienced in the world from your perspective, and what do you feel like we need to change?
Right. So obviously my perspective is much more international than it is from the US, but I think it can be valuable for people to know. I think the biggest thing that we need to change is, you know, just not putting a label on someone as soon as you see them or as soon as you know who they are. I think that was probably the biggest culture shock that I had when I came here to the US. In Venezuela, I was just Venezuelan, me, Victoria. There was no, are you Hispanic? Are you whatever? Are you this? Are you that? And I know it's not the same. I am white, so I don't experience racism here in the US, but it is the labeling that I have seen that is incredibly hurtful sometimes. I mean, it can serve certain purposes and it can have some advantages sometimes, but I think overall it's more hurtful to label people as soon as you meet them before you even know who they are.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing your insights. I think there is a lot of takeaways from your experience having been outside of the US borders. I mean, we look at our world today and we see it's just one of those things where people are are awakening. And I think by having these conversations that we are today, they're powerful in having this awakening to shine light on these things that have just been cast aside for years upon hundreds of years. So thank you for sharing that. We're hand it back over to Ken, and he's gonna introduce Martel.
All right, Martel, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?
Doing great. And I first met you when we had a virtual call, and we signed you up to be a course creator with Block Relations. And, so there's a little bit of collaboration going on there. And I love that. And in that time frame, you actually launched SoCo.
Yes.
And so would you like to go into a little bit about what SoCo is and what is the impact that you envision SoCo having?
Yeah. So first, I mean, the name itself, SoCo is Swahili for marketplace. That's a thing I think a lot of people won't know to start, but I guess it's something that allows people to go look into more African culture and learn a little bit more. But also, so SoCo is a discovery network for the Black community to connect, collaborate, and find new opportunities. But interestingly enough, when I first started it, it was actually around September of last year. I was looking at a lot of different founders, especially Black founders, who wanted to hire other, Black people who are designers or any sort of freelancer to come into their business. So initially the idea was to have kind of like a Fiverr for the Black community to be able to, find other Black people who are doing creative things and actually hire them on a contractual basis. But I ended up actually stopping it within a month of trying to create it. And this was underground. I didn't say anything about it. I spoke to a few people, and, over time, I think it got to May where, police brutality and a lot of different things were going on. And people kept asking me, hey, you should bring back SoCo. This would be very relevant now. So I evolved the idea into this discovery network, because at first I was like, hey, let me just create a social media platform that's kind of like Twitter and LinkedIn together and make this social network. And I realized we have a lot of that, and we have a lot of networks that aren't really serving a specific purpose in terms of bringing, other Black people and Black and brown people together. So that's where the discovery piece came in, because I thought that that's something that a lot of these social networks don't have right now in terms of discovering people based on demographic. So that's initially the theme that I wanted to take up with this. And so the history for why I decided to do the discovery piece is because, so I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised there. I lived there for about 10 years. I actually lived in Haiti for a year as well. I'm Haitian. So I ended up moving to Arizona, which is like across the US. And this is a complete culture shock for me, because I was an urban kid and I went into like this suburban area. There's a ton of white people. Because of who I am, I was able to make a lot of different friends, but I know a lot of people can't do that, right? So me knowing that and coming back to Boston, which is a primarily, white area, and going to Babson College, which is a predominantly white institution, I've just been surrounded by people who just don't look like me. So even at Babson, which is a business school, it's very hard, especially as a Black student, to move around and see other white students connecting with alumni a lot easier, right? They're connecting with other people who are in industries, getting all of these internships, and I'm stuck here like, I can't get an internship because I don't know anybody. Like I never, my dad didn't go to a country club with somebody. Like I don't have those types of connections. But I started seeing that there were a lot of Black professionals who were doing really well, but there was no way for me to get to them. Even going on LinkedIn, there's no search that I could say, oh, I want to see, like if I want to be a technologist one day, I can't go on LinkedIn and find a Black CTO and go connect with them. I would just have to look up a CTO and hope to find someone Black in the searches, right? So these were the things that brought me into figuring out, okay, how do I create this platform that has a competitive advantage over something like LinkedIn, where you can't find someone who looks like you. So this is what this platform is it's allowing you to find someone who looks like you, and I even added on the layer of finding other Black-owned businesses locally, and this will help with allies as well. So allies can be on this platform, and they're able to find other Black people to connect with them, figure out who they are, actually understand our culture, as well as shop at these Black-owned businesses. So there's different layers of complexity to this that I'll probably add over time. I'm looking at, and socioeconomic, what I mean by that is the social part as well as the economic part. So I want to add a commerce play to this, because I envision it being sort of like a new Black Wall Street, right? So that's like my long-term vision for it. But right now I'm starting off with this simple concept and, you know, executing right now and seeing if I could, you know, get the launch up in the next month or so. I've been working with a few people on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's extremely needed right now in this time. I feel like what you said is, you know, you didn't have a father at a country club that could make connections for you to get internships. That's really like relevant. It's people don't understand. That's how a lot of business is done, is through connections. And if people aren't comfortable reaching out of, you know, the mirror they look in and relating to people that look like them, then there's going to be a lack of progress. So I really appreciate what you're doing there with SoCo. And I think it's going to have profound effect. And maybe anyone watching can help contribute to that project, or any of the panelists here can help Martel build that out. So another question here would be, what is one thing from your perspective, Martel, that everyone can start to try to do in serving the mission for equality within the Black community?
I think the biggest thing is avoiding performative actions. So what I mean by that is just not just showing up and being here and saying, oh, because we've seen it happen so many times, right? We have a lot of these riots that happen and people come in and they're like, oh, I support Black people. And then once things die down, you don't hear from them ever again, right? And they don't even pay attention to you. And then something else happens and they're like, oh no, like we want equality. So I think the biggest thing is, even after, and I don't know if this will die down, to be honest, this is a very different, you know, scenario from a lot of history. Like I've studied it and it feels different. And a lot of, you know, Black civil rights leaders are even saying this feels different. But even when, let's say this does die down, I do want for, you know, people who consider themselves allies to still, you know, preach the message and try to support as much as they can, because we're going to be fighting this for a long time. It's very systemic. So, you know, having one riot or having one dent in history, it just isn't going to be enough. So my biggest thing is just making sure that the follow-up is there from allies.
Exactly. And you can consider us at Block Relations and Crypto Live League allies. And we plan on holding this event, All Our Block, as an annual event. And we want to build on it and make sure that we still have this presence going forward, because we realize this issue is not going away. And like you said, once, you know, the protests die down, there is a risk of people, you know, forgetting about the situation and going back to, you know, business as usual, so to say. So definitely count on us, and that message should resonate with the audience as well. And so it looks like we have Emily back. Steve, do you want to take it from there?
All right, let's try this one more time. So Emily, let's pretend that we're back at Cafe Nero, very first time. I want you to tell me and our esteemed audience all about Holler Hype. What is Holler Hype?
Thanks, Steve. I would say before even diving into Holler Hype, I'll share that I'm thankful to be a part of this conversation. I've already learned so much from my fellow panelists. It's been really great. A bit about me, my background is, personally, I'm really curious. Professionally, I'm a storyteller, and that led me to founding my company Holler Hype, which I would frame as an emotional support tool that really enables experiential marketing. And the reason why I'd like to share a bit about it in this context is, when people use Holler Hype, they're able to gain insights through audio in a way that makes sense to their own experiences. So it could be a marathon runner that's listening to their own playlist, and suddenly they hear voice messages come in over their music from their fans. It could be their family, it could be their friends. But if they're subscribed to a group, whether it be a charitable group or a social group, they could hear these group messages that actually create experiential unity. And by the way those group messages are scribed or told, there can be some real impact that comes from listening to your own music that makes you feel like you're leading with your preferences, going out there and pledging activity, and hearing things that make you feel supported, and possibly even learning something new. So I'm quite passionate about the role that audio plays in how we are becoming informed. Things are changing so quickly, and we're looking for the next thing to real time. And we're seeing that with so much innovation right now. And we're seeing it a lot with voice as well. I think that it would probably be most beneficial to just add a couple of thoughts about the vision for Holler Hype moving forward versus some of the things that we're doing right now, because I can't help but think, you know, as we continue to build movements, what would it be like if we leveraged a tool like Holler Hype that's simply the technology in the background? Holler Hype is really just a platform. It's a technology. It actually elevates spirit and different voices that can make a difference in the way that we learn, where it doesn't necessarily feel educational. It brings us closer to different perspectives in a way that might be more impactful for us to consume. So I'm really interested in different types of use cases that might come out in the social impact space. Right now, we're serving a variety of charities, helping people that are a part of their communities feel closer to the mission, especially today when people are isolated and people can feel quite disconnected from what they're doing and why they're doing it. Fortunately, you know, we've been able to participate in protests safely, especially here in Boston. We see that a lot of people use masks and take safety precautions so that we don't miss out on these really important moments to show up and show our support for all things necessary moving forward in equality rights. But that's basically what I would like to share about Holler Hype is I'm excited to see what voice can do in helping to create greater impact in terms of so many stories that still need to be told in different ways.
So I have a follow-up comment and then sort of a question that goes on top of that, because one thing I want our audience watching to know is that Emily is one of not only a rising star in the Boston startup and innovation community, but she is very much emblematic of what I feel to be our collective conscience, which is so representative of concepts of things like diversity, inclusion in the real sense. So my comment is that you also demonstrate what a lot of what Ken and I and Benton and Martel and everybody at Block Relations is doing in terms of using technology as a bridge builder between, like, trying to unite people and places and purposes. That's my comments. I commend you on your work with Holler Hype. And I want to pick your brain just briefly before we transition. What are you seeing in the startup community, which is complementary to the innovative spirit of blockchain? What are some of the things you're seeing in terms of the fight for equality and equity in our space?
That's a good question, because a lot of, there's just so much to do. There's so much important work to be done.
Don't we know it?
Without necessarily running through the statistics. But as we know, and this has been mentioned on this panel previously, that equality really starts with power and access to authority. We can't make things happen without capital. And there are so many comments, even micro comments that have been made so far in terms of, like, you know, unless your dad at the country club can make a connection for you, unless you have access to certain funding, which we know not everybody has the same equal access to funding. Right. Capital makes projects move forward, unless you're going to register as a nonprofit. And even then, the fees are steep and it takes time to gain grants. No matter how we slice it, funding is what helps important work move forward. And it's not okay where the statistics fall right now in terms of Black entrepreneurs getting funding, in terms of women gaining funding. And we know that because there's so much important research done right now, that a lot of the reasoning behind that is because of the distribution of power that actually allocates the funding is falling into pattern with people that think the same way and look the same way. I do believe that in Boston, we are making important steps and we are making progress, but it's still not good enough. And I think that although that might sound like I'm not taking a positive step forward, it's important to remember that it's not good enough yet.
I think we need to stay humble. And I think that founders in the space, such as yourself, myself, Ken, and a lot of people here, you know, that's what we're all about. We're all about listening, learning, and trying to move things forward with a very sober spirit. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ken. What's going on, boss?
Yes. So we have our last panelist to get questions here is going to be Christina and Steve. If you actually want to take those
I
questions,
do.
go ahead. Yeah.
First and foremost, I'm glad that Em and I had that little discussion, sub-discussion about the startup community, because Christina LeBird, I mean, a lot of us in the Boston startup ecosystem know her. She's one of the bright sources of inspiration with her travel pitch nights that she does with Beth Santos. And what happened was, just to give a little bit of background, I noticed that she was up to something special a couple of weeks ago, and I knew that I had to support it. So without further ado, Christina, before I get into these questions, I want you to just explain a little bit about your latest project, your coalition.
Yes. So again, thanks for everyone having me on today. You know, as I think, you know, the others have spoken, is definitely, you know, Martellus, who was on that same vibe of getting to have some sort of reach out, some sort of collective together in terms of, you know, making sure that, you know, Black entrepreneurs could find each other, and those who are saying that they're allies also want to, you know, assist. And during the BLM protests, I was getting a lot of those messages. As Steve mentioned, I was one of the leaders for a travel tech startup club here in Boston, which was Voyager HQ. Unfortunately, they shuttered down. And so with my position as I, you know, where I was getting questions of, well, what can I do? And I think there needs to be like a slight distinction about what those non-Black allies can do. And I say to myself, you need to be more than an ally, you need to be a co-conspirator. You need to be a co-conspirator in the sense that you actually are taking actions to ensure that things are getting done. So beyond just saying I am for Black lives, let's show the receipts, you know, hashtag show the receipts, hashtag let us do something more, right? So it was just a question of, you want to support them? Okay, we're going to put together a list of Black founders, and here's the list. Just let's go out and do it. And Steve did get caught wind of my post on LinkedIn, and it kind of exploded from there. We are now the Black Startup Collective. We have over 300 founders listed on there. It's a collaboration between others who have started this work and those and myself who are trying to continue. It's been great in terms of the responses that we've been getting. You know, just particular individuals or partners who wish to come on and assist in some shape or form. We were able to just launch a scholarship program with GSV Labs, who are allowing people to come on and use their pathway, which is great because it's the resources that they need. Even as myself as a Black woman startup founder, I know as someone who is trying to, you know, really get into the game for my funding, I know there are hoops I'm going to have to jump. I've already prepared myself, and that's kind of the stake that we're in. You know, those have mentioned it before. I am a first generation Haitian American. You know, I don't necessarily have the means to do a friends and family round. Like, that's just not possible. And I think there's needs to be understanding that there's essentially a section of wealth that our white counterparts might have access to, that majority of us, the Black and Indigenous people of color, don't necessarily have that access to. So we need to ensure that we're steering the conversation to understand that there has been a head start. There's been a very long head start. And in order for there to be justice, that head start needs to come completely equal to those who are non-white. So I'm hoping that this collective and these conversations that we're having allows for that move for, yes, you're an ally. Yes, absolutely. You can now, you know the stats, you know what the problem is, your eyes are open, but now it's about moving that forward. Be a co-conspirator, be on top of people. If you're seeing rooms that are more like you, there's a problem. You need to call attention to it. If you're seeing that contracts are going out to particular independent contractors who look like you need to change it. Make it a personal goal of yours to bring on between maybe 3 to 5 new faces that don't necessarily look like you. You know, I'm an IP attorney, so I see startups coming in and out all the time, and I make it my personal goal to ensure that not only am I, reaching out to those who may not look like me, but also trying to find those who do need that kind of assistance and trying to give them whatever resources, assistance that they need. So, like Michelle said, this is a long battle. It's not going to stop anytime soon. And we need to be able to know what our role is moving forward. Again, these conversations are great to kind of highlight what that role needs to be in the future.
I love that. I love that. And I love especially that you're emphasizing that there are no quick fixes to this. There are no Band-Aids. And one of the things that I've been noticing a lot in our community that I celebrate with you is trying to eliminate these quick fixes. So instead of having a chief diversity officer, let's just be diverse.
Right.
Exactly. And another comment that I would make is that when it comes to allyship or advocacy, you are exactly right. I mean, in order for somebody like Ken, myself, Benson, to be considered allies, we really have to have a level of credibility based upon proof of work, as we say in the blockchain space. So show those receipts. Just before I move on to my question, I'll let you know that I was attending a seminar with Victoria Yampolsky and Leslie Short. And Leslie Short was talking about that, how too often, well-meaning allies might style themselves as such and say, hey, I'm an ally, but really, we really have to take a step back. We have to look inward and we have to figure out, all right, if we're in this, we have to be in this 110%. So with that, I'm going to ask you this question, which I think builds upon so much of what you've been establishing here so eloquently, which is, with everything that you're doing, where do you see like the future of business looking like as we consciously incorporate communities of color and other groups that have been underserved?
So I have two views. I have a very optimistic view where it's going to be great. Everyone's going to immediately, shift gears. Those individuals like, Ben and Jerry's who are very vocal about it, others will, begin to toot that same horn. And we'll begin to see a shift in allowing more opportunities for Black founders, Black businesses, et cetera, to get part of that economic power that has been missing for a number, closer maybe even like hundreds of years, to be honest with you. I'm pessimistic in that change is hard and people don't like to be uncomfortable. But unfortunately, in order for there to be a change or a growth, people have to be uncomfortable. So there has to be those uncomfortable conversations of, what have I done in the past that I haven't realized as part of my biases? What have I done in the past that has led me to believe that this is okay? Why haven't I made myself more uncomfortable? Because it's easier this way. So I think, there's a lot of work to be done. I wait, because sometimes I'm pessimistic when I see certain things, or, I see almost a backlash to say, there's already been enough. We already have a Black president, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, because I do think this is different. It has a different flair to it. Gen Z is not playing around at all. They've been hitting the streets, and I commend them. I would be with them if I could, but I got a 20-month-old. That's not going to happen. But it has a different flavor. It has a different flair now, and I truly believe that we're going to get there. We're going to get there, and I believe it's going to happen in my time. It's not going to be something that's going to be 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. Finally, we've actually reached a pinnacle where that gap is actually closing, but we will get there.
Excellent. And before I turn it over to Ken again, I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing, shining a light in our community and in other communities as well. And just to say to everybody watching, and to our panel too, I've had to make similar journeys of like self-discovery and reflection, and it's okay. I want to let everybody out there who are doing those things to know it's okay to be uncomfortable. In order to, grow, we sometimes have to have those pains, those growing pains. And we're all in this together, and together we're stronger. So Ken, what do you think, boss?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something we like to say, stronger together. And you have to constantly be reflecting on your past and actions that you've taken previously that aren't getting the results that we all desire, and try to change your path forward as best as possible to accomplish those goals. And so with that, we lead into the more general questions that are going to be open to all of the panelists. And these are focusing around race and America. And to start us off, Benton, why don't you take the first question?
Yeah, this is the first question I have is a question that CJ and I spoke about a few weeks ago. And he's told me that he likes to lead into conversations asking this question to people that he meets. And it is the question is, what are your biases? And then a follow-up question to that is, why do we have them?
Is this for
Oh, you're
CJ
on
or
mute,
can anyone
CJ.
really?
Anyone can respond to this. CJ, you want to go first?
Yeah, so my bias is trying to think. I've overcome a lot. Let me just start with one of the major ones that I've overcome. In 2015, I went through a very convicting experience through this leadership cohort, and I went in really struggling with women being in position of power over me. And so it was only ignorant because I didn't recognize the blind spot, but some of it I did. But anyway, I got corrected very quickly by a lot of very powerful, strong women. So it is no longer a bias, but in 2015 it was. And short of being convicted, I don't think that I would have ever changed. So I'm glad that these women did that. I'm a Black man born and raised in the inner city of Atlanta, born into poverty, and now I'm living a life of prosperity. I'm not a multimillionaire by any stretch of the imaginary, but I live a good life. But I do find myself having biases towards people that are poor and assuming that they can't articulate what they're struggling with and what they want. But the good news about bias for me and being curious like Emily is that's why I start out with, here's my assumption about you. Prove me wrong or prove me right. And then we start there and then it's like, boom, okay. And so that's one that I'm kind of struggling with every day.
Would anybody else like to jump in on that?
Yeah, you know what? I'll jump in.
Sure.
You know, as a first gen, you know, your parents are informed by the media that they consume outside of the US. So growing up, you know, they tend to see the images that are, you know, within mainstream media about how, you know, Black Americans are. You know, they make a distinction between themselves. It's an unfortunate truth though, that Black Americans are treated from immigrant Blacks. And so it was a bias that I recognized early in my parents and also just, you know, in our community, that we're making these distinctions between ourselves, but in the end, if a police officer was to pull us over, it doesn't matter whether we have an accent or not, we're just Black. And so that was something that I had to really, like, you know, go in, especially because after I went into college, I went to BC, and, you know, there were like so many different people from all over. There were international students, there were people who had been all over the country. And it really occurred to me then, I'm like, we're all the same. We still have beautiful melanin skin, but, you know, we're all really the same. And so that's something that I think I'm constantly making sure that I'm checking within, you know, the immigrant community as well too. But like, no, don't do that. We're better than this. And I think lately, as of now, definitely with the really new media that we're seeing in terms of the experiences that Black people have had with police authority, it's really calling to life. It really doesn't matter, you know, where you came from. It's all the same story.
Right. And I think I want to share one of my biases that has changed over the past couple of years. Having grown up in Atlanta in a white community, I used to place judgment on, hey, where are you from? Oh, okay, you're from this area of town, or you're from this side of town. Okay, this means that you're like this. To Victoria's point that she said, placing labels on people based off of where they are from. What I have learned from my journey since moving to Boston. Boston is a much different city, even though the population is still a majority white. There's a way different feel. There's a lot more immigrants here. It feels like it is more of a melting pot than what Atlanta was to me. And my biases have changed. I now see people as people, not just, hey, I don't care where you are from. We are all human beings. We're all in this together. And I think for me, that is one of the biggest takeaways that I've had regarding changing my biases, and being able to step up and say, you know what, that's not right. And I was able to change this over the course of the past couple of years here. And CJ has had a major helping hand in making me understand from the perspective of a Black man, what that may be like to have that label placed on you, and to change that. So I think that's something important for us to look at is say we're all humans, regardless of what you may look like. We are all human beings of the same being.
I guess I'll say something. I have 8 kids, so it's kind of super hard for me to be biased against anybody. And I say that not just because I have 8 kids, but because I have 8 different personalities, 8 different shades of kids, 8 different everything, you know what I mean? So I kind of consider myself as having a world in my house. So, an international house under my roof. So it's helped me to deal with people on the outside in the world, because I'm like I said, there's just so many people. And within my family, we have family from all over the world. My grandmother had 10 kids that married people from all over the world. So our house has always been pretty much international. Plus, I'm from New York. I'm one of the most international cities you could possibly be at anyway. But I have found that I've had to maybe like catch up on my bias, so to speak, or be biased, force myself to be biased, in terms of choices or selections, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, we want to do this for a particular group. What group do we choose, or what person do we choose? So of course I'm going to go for the most disadvantaged I could possibly go for, you know what I mean? So it's almost like, I guess you could say like a reverse, a reverse bias, and then I guess I've always kind of cheered for the underdog anyway, because I consider myself the underdog. So whoever's the underdog in the room at the time, you getting picked. So, I'm, that's to the extent, I guess you could say, of my bias. I kind of just consider it against my personal religion to be biased against anybody for anything, because to me, you never know who that person really is underneath their skin, underneath their gender, underneath whatever. You don't know them like that, spiritually, because I'm a spiritual person. So, so you got to be open to everybody.
I guess I'll make a comment here. So I consider myself to be a very open and outgoing person that's sort of doesn't have bias to anyone personally. But a scenario that I kept telling friends and family is that I think the police don't treat me well. I've had experiences with the police where I didn't think they treated me fairly. And I felt like maybe this is, the kind of feelings that someone from a diverse community would feel with the police. And I didn't realize that, the follow-up steps that I go, maybe I'm appealing this citation I got. I'll get off from the citation and I'm not getting ripped out of the car and I'm not getting physically assaulted during the altercation, even though I don't think it's fair. I needed to realize that there's a different level to this mistreatment, and that I never, even though I thought I was being treated bad, I was never exposed to that level. And it's something I've needed to learn and come to terms with in conversation I've had with family and friends, and, even just watching what's happening recently and over the past years. It's just totally different than my personal experience. And I just wanted to open my eyes to that and sort of come to a realization and respect to what other cultures and communities have to deal with.
I think for me, I've had a very unique bias, and it comes from like my family. So my family's primarily Christian. So mother and father, Christian, raised me that way. And I used to have this weird bias of like where it's like an elitism, right? Like Christianity is like the only religion, like everyone else is just like that's not true. Like you're blind, you don't know what you're talking about. And this was something that my parents had taught me for a very long time. And it wasn't until recent till I learned, you know, there are other religions and you have to respect their culture, you have to respect where they come from. And, you know, that was something that I had been fighting for years. Because I was like, hey, like, why is this only religion the one thing that I know? Like, what's the point of religion, right? So I've had a lot of these like conversations with myself and like even with my parents, and they're like, no, this is the only way. This is the only way. Like, I don't, all of these other things, like don't talk to people who are this religion. It was really bad. So, you know, my biggest kind of transition was just figuring out that everyone has their own way and it's a personal experience for everybody. So you don't really have the right to judge anybody for any religion they have, any preference they have for any which way. And, you know, that was something that I definitely opened my eyes to over the last few years, honestly.
I can add something on the topic as well. And I think it's just as a quick comment to start, like it's really compelling to me that people are being so brave to share their personal biases right now, because I think what I'm seeing a lot of in social media is you know, people trying to educate or inspire others by taking a preaching standpoint, even if it comes from a really, really, really good place. And here we're seeing one after another, people are being so brave. These panelists right now, we're all saying like, this is something that I had wrong that I want to work on, or maybe I can think about differently. And that's just pretty cool. And I wanted to note that. To support my entrepreneurial growth, I've bartended for the past maybe like 5 years. And that is a community full of biases. And I remember feeling kind of affected by coworkers in different places that I bartended, making comments like, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock at night and there's a party of 10 Black people coming in and they're not going to tip me. And I remember thinking like, who are you to say that? And the same comment will be made with, there's a party of 10 people that are coming in and they are from another country because they're all speaking Spanish. Why am I going to stay late to wait on a table that's not going to tip me? This story would repeat. There's probably hundreds of them in my head. And there were times where I would find myself check the tip receipt in a different way than if it were, you know, a party of white people, because that would get into my head. And to be honest, it breaks my heart to share that, because we consume things that are shared within our ecosystems. And that's why it's so important, I think, for us to become allies and advocates and to stand up and say, like, that's not cool to your coworkers. Like, why are we even allowing this type of discourse? It's just inviting really, really negative behaviors and thought processes. But I can't tell you how much that happens in the food and beverage industry. And it's a bias that I'm proud to keep top of mind.
I just want to say that one of the things that really helps me, because I just don't think it's humanly possible to exist on Earth without biases. Maybe it is possible. I don't think it is. We're going to have those biases and then just be curious. So one of the things that I do is I make it a principle to never challenge what people say, but challenge why they say what they say, to just help me to go deep. So I am perfectly okay with, not okay with, but I get it if because let me tell you something, I remember for a long time, I never tipped at all. So I fit this stereotype until I got with my wife and she was just like, so you can't do that. But I didn't grow up understanding all of that. But even what you're saying that, Emily, my question would be, and maybe you can even share it kind of briefly. I'm not trying to take over the thing, but just as an example, so why do you feel that way? Have you had any experiences? So not challenging what you said, but just questioning why you said it.
Yeah, the reason why I shared that is because I believe from how much time I invested into the food and beverage industry, that honestly, if I kept a spreadsheet of demographics next to percentage of tips that were collected, I do believe that it actually all balances out, and that we only notice certain biases based on the assumptions that we have.
You know,
Because,
oh, no, go ahead.
oh, no. That's
I
basically
wanted
the
to
end of my comment.
I wanted to add to that, because another thing, I think this is problematic. This is one of the problematic situations that arises out of that. Then you have the people that, like myself, that feel like we already know that people think we're not going to tip. So we feel like we have to make up for it. So I'm the big tipper, right?
Yep, me too.
So I go in there and I'm tipping $20, you know what I mean? Each and every time I eat, 20, 30, I don't care if I just had a my tip might be bigger than my meal, right? And that is the type of makeup that a lot of Black women do, because we know that they're looking at us a specific way. So we got to overachieve or overspend or over this or over that, because you know what I mean? So, and all it does is wind up causing just more feelings of, you know, it reinforces your low values and stress, you know, a lot more stress. It's a burden, right? So, you know, you're taking on a burden because of this conceived thing. So that's a problem that, you know, I as a Black woman would like to fix, because I don't want to have to keep going places and, you know, either overly being nice or overly spending or overly dressing sharp or overly, you know, all of these different things. I can't go somewhere in a sweatsuit. You know, I can't be, you know, Zuckerberg and wear a sweatsuit and just not do my hair and, you know, just come in like whatever, you know what I mean? Although I may want to at times, you know, and it's even on both sides, because it's not just on the quote unquote white standard side, it's even on the Black side, because they'll be like, you know, if you don't get dressed right, then XYZ is going to happen to you. You
They're
know,
gonna talk about it.
yeah, and I experienced that when I first came into GUAP Coin. You know, because I'm an eclectic person, I'm a geek. You know, I spend a lot of time behind a computer, a lot of time programming, you know, and, you know, I like to get dressed up in certain things like that, but I wear weird stuff sometimes, you know? So I'll have the guys that incorporate, and they knew what I was about to do. They're like, well, Tavana, you should really like wear your hair straight, or you should do this, or you should do that. You know, you can't wear locks, or you can't do this. And I'm like, really? Like, we're in 2020 and you're saying this to me? But this is the type of fallout. So a lot of the extra stress when you're a Black woman coming into technology, you got a tremendous amount of stress from all angles. You know what I mean? Everybody's telling you what you can't and cannot do, and you can and cannot be. You know what I mean? So, and it's very stressful. So you got to either learn to tune it out, or, you know, we got to change that dynamic as well.
Just to add two quick things, and I don't mean to cut anybody off. Just really two quick things. You know, it's interesting that, you know, we're talking about these biases, but it's all about, everyone does have an inherent bias. It's about the power that you put behind that bias that does impact other people. So don't feel as if because you might have thought it's really the problem. Of course, there needs to be change with that, but also there has to be the idea that power behind the bias causes the prejudices that allows others like myself and others who look like me to feel disadvantaged. And so I think Black people in particular, we know that that's the game we have to play, because we know that there's biases that have been fed into by media, by, you know, whatever source that there is. We have to conform. I bet you if we did a poll right now for all the Black people on here, and if I said, do y'all have two different ways of talking? Y'all have your white voice, right? You have your white voice, and you have your other way of talking when you're with other Black people. It's code switching. essentially that's what they call it. They call it code switching. So if I'm talking to you like this, I know for a fact this is how, if I was speaking in this manner, would be appreciated and understood better. If I would be like, yo, what's up? You know, it's Christina, da 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 da. You know, and immediately, like, I know there's certain things that I have to do. So, and I know, same with corporate America. As an IP attorney, I had to have my hair straight. To me, having braids was considered unprofessional. Why? I don't know why. It could be neat. I could have them fresh, and it would still be considered as it's unkempt. Or if I did my afro, it can be considered too hood. And so, you know, there's these biases that are fed into it. And it's when they come into HR policies, when they come into who gets particular grants or who gets particular loans for their businesses, that's when the problem comes in. So again, it's about checking yourself, but also realizing what steps have you done behind those biases.
And I want to add to that real quick. And just the, you know, you were talking about the different ways of speaking, and then even just having to be smarter, you know what I mean? So many Black women I know, and I say Black women because I think that, you know, Black men, they can kind of see that, and they're like, I'm not gonna feed into all of that. But Black women, it's like, okay, I gotta go back to school and learn this.
Yes.
I gotta get 10 degrees. I have to have 10 titles after my name. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's just so stressful. I mean, I did it recently. It wasn't good enough for me to just be a blockchain engineer. Now everybody's calling themselves a blockchain person. So now, okay, I'm invisible again. You know what I mean? Nobody's hearing me. So I had to go back and be a data scientist. Now I'm a data scientist. You know what I mean? And I know that I love data. And I feel like I've always been a data scientist, but I had to get that because I got invisible again. You know what I mean? Like, and I was made invisible by people who didn't even know nothing about blockchain, who didn't even know nothing about programming. They weren't programmers. They're not tech people, and they're coming up as now experts in this space. You know what I mean? So it's like again, now I'm silent again. Like my voice is not being heard. So what do? I go back to school and be a data scientist. You know, and it's not just me. I know many Black women like this.
Very true.
Career students. Constantly going back, getting more accolades so that they could, you know, be heard.
It's two things, you know, we're Black and we're women. You know, there's that level that we have to combat. Not only do we have to fight, you know, patriarchal, you know, different notions about who women are, but we also have the added layer of being a Black woman. We cannot divorce ourselves from one or the other. That's who we are. And so I agree with you. You know how many letters I have behind my name? I not only do I have my JD, I have an LLM and IP. I am also under the ISP, you know, and I have to be certified in X, Y, and Z to prove my worth. And I know I'm not getting paid right. I know I'm not. But in order for me to get where I am now, I had to do X, Y, and Z. So it's a plight.
Yeah.
So I was gonna mention something about what Emily said, because it's very interesting, just for the fact that I think that there's a lot of truth to bias, right? So what I mean by that is, you know, when me coming from an urban area, like my family, like I don't go out to eat ever. Well, I do now, but when I was younger, that wasn't something that we did. And a lot of urban kids that were around me didn't have that either. So, you know, when we start going in, so when I moved to Arizona, that was the first time I ever heard about tipping. I had no idea what that was, right? And so that's another thing to realize, is a lot of this stuff is systemic. Like we live in certain areas, like I call it the hood, but you know, people just say urban areas. And we don't know what tipping is because we go to fast food restaurants. We don't sit down and eat because we don't have money to do that. So when we get to these positions, a lot of people just don't realize, okay, you have to tip a certain amount. I didn't even know what the percentages were. I was looking at my friends and like who I was sitting with, I'm like, how much are they giving? Let me put the same thing. Even though I might have eaten less than they have, I was still giving the same amount because I just didn't know. So that's another thing too, where like, you know, there is some truth to that. I'm sure there are a lot of, you know, not even just Black people, Hispanic people, a lot of people who just don't tip because they don't know. They don't know the significance of it. Like I was a waiter at Wellesley Country Club for like a few months because I honestly couldn't do it. I commend any waiter because it's the hardest thing in the world. But like I didn't know the importance of tipping until I was there. Even though they don't tip there were people who were still giving me money as tips. So I'm like, oh wow, like people actually tip. This is a real thing. And that's when I started learning, okay, this is how you tip. This is how much you give. You give a certain percentage based on how much you ate. This is a high percentage. This is a low percentage, because I didn't even know what the differences were. So that's my whole point, is like, you know, a lot of Black people, especially when they become successful, they'll go to a restaurant and you'll be like, how did you not know that you had to tip this person? Because that person never had success in his family, never had a situation where they all went and sat. Like, even to this day, my family, we don't go and sit down at restaurants. They make food at home, and like people come over and they'll eat. So like there's like this difference in culture growing up that changes the way that, you know, Black people behave. Not even just Black people, a lot of different cultures behave when they go out to these, you know, to these restaurants. They don't understand that. So, you know, there is some truth to your point, but also, you know, there's also a lot of personal bias where you're like, oh, this person's not gonna do it because that person didn't do it, which I think that's wrong too. But, you know, it goes both ways.
I'm glad you brought that. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I just have a quick thing, Victoria, because I'm really glad you brought that up, Martel. I think if you might have noticed that I even kind of like struggled to share that perspective, is because what really bothers me under the surface is that because of those assumptions, and I do appreciate everything that you just shared, there will be a decreased level of service that's given to a party of people that come in. And that's what I think translates to widespread biases that lead to systemic problems. Because if there are people coming into a restaurant or sitting at a bar while I'm bartending, I prefer that me and my colleagues have the benefit of the doubt that someone is going to tip 20%. And if they don't, it's because they can't, or they didn't know that they should, or that something happened and it's not in their means. They could be celebrating an anniversary, they could be celebrating a birthday, but the math comes out that it's an emotional choice to let it get to you and create that bias. Because there are always, it really does, like, it's amazed me working at different establishments, whether it's 2 shifts a week or 5 shifts a week, whether it's at a casual dining place where the average check is $20, or a high-end establishment where the average check is $150, upwards of $300. The math really does come out to be the same. And in that case, it's a human experience. At the end of the day, you wait on more tables, you make more money, and it's an emotional choice to let it get to you. And you never know what your behavior that you're mirroring your own assumptions before anything even happens could lead to a negative impact, especially for people that haven't had the experiences dining out before. What a terrible way to start the system.
Yeah, and I think it's a chain reaction, right? So you have this specific theory, or not you personally, but a lot of, you know, waiters or bartenders have this specific image in their head of, oh, this group of Black people, they're not going to tip me, or this group of Hispanics aren't going to tip me. And now you have those same people, because they felt that so many times, they're like, well, they're not going to serve me right anyway, so what's the point of tipping? And so you have like this back and forth that happens, and it just goes on forever, because one side has a bias, the other side has a bias, and there's just not the reconciliation of, oh no, like, let's really think about this and fix it. And it's like, that's not the only subject in society where biases are kind of like a chain reaction. This happens like in so many different areas. So yeah.
And Martell, I've had to go into restaurants. I've done it, not a whole lot, but sometimes if I just want to have a good experience, I'm just like, look, I'm going to tip you. I mean, it's crazy, but I literally tell them, and then, you know, they'll just kind of laugh it off. But it's like, look, I want a good meal. You're going to get plenty of money. It's going to be great unless you don't do anything good. So, yeah, but again, that's why I say I like to hear my biases, and then let's start there, and then prove me right, prove me wrong. And, you know, I just found that to be very healthy.
Yeah.
One thing I want to share before this whole thing was over is coming from an international perspective. And if you guys let me share a little bit of my background, Venezuela, it's a very much a melting pot of people. So I grew up with the knowledge that everyone, you know, it was a very far removed problem that racism existed or that it even affected me or that I even benefited from it until I came to the US. And that's a belief that I held very tightly to because I felt very like, oh, I'm Hispanic. You know, who am I to believe in racism? Who am I to think there doesn't even exist or that I'm even benefiting from it? And, you know, having these conversations and everything that's happening right now, I just wanted to share with you guys that this is obviously that's something that I've been starting to break down very long ago, but it's, you know, in staying within that belief that it doesn't exist, that it doesn't affect me, that I'm not a part of it, I am playing into the system that is so unjust to so many people. So just thank you everyone for sharing everything.
Yeah, and that's a great place to end that question on. I think so much valuable insights were shared here. And like to CJ's point, we need to identify these biases so we can assess them and correct them and move forward. So we had some more questions, but in the interest of time, I'm going to go to the last question for this segment. So as a white person, what can white people do to start serving the Black community? If you guys want to spend about 5 to 10 minutes answering.
I would like to start by just saying like what I did with Benton when he reached out to me. And I said, pick a number, 10, 20, 30, or 40, any number. And he said 40. So I said, all right, I want you to be with me for 40 days. I need to be top of mind for you every day. You may not be top of mind for me, but you need to focus on me. Figure out in your day, I don't care what you got going on with your personal relationship at work, be with me. Now, once you be with me, then you can figure out what you need to do for me. And then we can figure out where we need to go together. But we ain't trying to go nowhere. We ain't trying to do nothing. Be with me. So what I'm telling white people when they come to me and I say, hey, listen, pick a number, 10, 20, 30, or 40. If they say 10, I want you to be with me for 10 days. I don't want to hear nothing about your daughter having to go to school. I don't want to hear nothing about your auntie got sick. You need to focus on me for these amount of days. Be, do, go.
And I'm going to jump in here real quick. Is this is something that CJ taught me once again, is all of this starts with conviction. That is one thing that CJ taught me. It's not just talking about it. You have to believe it to be able to make it happen. And it starts with conviction, and the conviction that knowing that's what's been happening in America, especially over these hundreds of years, is wrong. And the conviction to stand up and say it's not right and to take action is what I think white people need to take away from this is a white man talking to other white people, having learned what I have learned from CJ. That's kind of my big takeaway.
Can I also just add as well too? CJ is an amazing person. The fact that he's putting his time and effort to, you know, being part of this conversation is great. But I think there's one thing that Black people, at least those I've spoken to, there's a fatigue with this as well too, because we've been talking about this for a very long time. And, you know, it's great that you're coming to ask questions and it's great, but there might be some Black people who don't feel like their role is to be an educator. The same way that, you know, they can say, you know what, go out and learn about it. So that's like the initial step. And that's the kind of conviction that would really speak louder, is that no one had to walk you through it. You went out to go find the information that you needed in order for you to understand it. There's so many books, there's movies, etc., that can help you understand, right, I see the book, that help you understand exactly what you can do to highlight your biases, to learn about what the system is. I mean, you know, I'm sure that we can even put up a list later. I can, you know, find some suggestions, but at most there are people who are not going to feel comfortable. So let's just put that off of the bat. And if there are those who are like CJ, who can put in that time and effort to help you walk through it, then by all means, take the opportunity, because it's not always going to be there. It is great. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is because, again, you know, people have been talking about this for so long. And so now that there's this, you know, favored attention to it, it's like a double-edged sword for some people, because again, it's almost like, where has this energy been, fam? Like, where have you been? We've been talking about this, we've been yelling about this, we've been screaming about this. And so it took a dead man's gruesome death to be shown during a pandemic for you now to pay attention to it. So some people might feel a little salty. So don't take that to heart, please push through that uncomfortable feeling and continue to try to educate yourself and figure out ways to be that co-conspirator moving forward.
I think a major way that, and of course I'm super duper biased because I'm a geek, but is funding Black tech. And I'm gonna talk about that because Black
Amen.
tech, because Black tech for the most part is solution oriented.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in most of the times it's oriented towards solutions that affect our communities, and VCs and everybody else do not understand. You know what I mean? They're like, why would I want to pay? Why would you want to do something like that? You know what I mean? And we know why we would want to do something like that because we live in it, you know? So I think it's very important to fund Black tech because Black tech is solution oriented around the community more times than not. It's very rare when you see someone just do some technology in our community that's just, you know, just for fun. You know what I mean? It's usually stemming around making our life better, you know what I mean? Or closing the digital divide or
Agreed.
something to that effect. I mean, I've been in cohorts with other Black tech founders. I have Black tech founder friends. Every single one of them has a solution for some of the things that we're going through. Everything, whether it's dealing with the police, whether it's, you know, a technology solution for that, whether it's a technology, we have solutions, you know what I mean? But we don't have money.
Ooh, girl, preach.
But
Yes, yes, girl, preach.
I have a question on that because even for me, like building Soko, the biggest thing that I fear is the exit plan question, right? Like what's your exit strategy? Where are you? So imagine if I sell something that's for Black people to a predominantly white VC because they put up the most money and the whole thing just turns into something different than what I expected, right? So now there's the problem of who's funding you and what is their intention? Their intention is who knows, right? So there's the other problem of, okay, yeah, bring money, but who is that person giving me money and what's their intent for the exit strategy that they want me to do? Because every VC, they want you to have an exit strategy. Is it either an IPO or an acquisition, right? Or somebody buys your business. So it's like, I don't know, because if any of those things happen, it could completely distill the initial intent that I had for this thing, which was to be a solution to a specific problem that means a lot to people who look like me and also people who don't look like me. So there's that like gap where it's like, okay, if you get funding, that's great, but then what about the influence that comes with that funding?
Yeah,
And
well,
I think
okay.
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, I think part of that as well too is that interview process you have to do with people you're bringing onto your back end, because if they're not of the same flavor that you're trying to go with, then I'm trying to go in the same direction that you do, regardless of whether they're giving you that check. If it's not working for the mission that you have, then it might not be someone you might want to bring on. Like for instance, like for us, for Voyager, we are focused on the travel tech. Travel tech is a very particular thing. And for us, you know, to Vanna's like point, we want to make sure that those who are, you know, providing experiences with the travel industry have an equal playing field. And that's not there because people who have the most money are able to get to the top of the list. And that's how they're able to make the money, whereas small businesses don't perform well. Small businesses are mostly, you know, Black-owned businesses suffer the most. And so that's why we created this particular AI engine. If a VC comes to me, and this is what, and I totally agree with you about this particular conundrum. If a VC comes to me and says, yeah, we want to take this on and we want to do X, Y, and Z with it to get you to an acquisition, if that is not in line with what I see, and they're trying to make it more of a way to either sell it to the next bidder who can then take it apart and then not benefit the small businesses that I always intended for it to, then I have to say no. And it's hard because you don't want to say no to money because that's money you need. Yeah, exactly.
But then see that goes to my next point where it's like, I think it's an infrastructure problem. Like we do need Black VCs, or we need Black people with money, like, because that'll help too. And we don't have that. If you look at the VC space, it's probably one of the least diverse spaces that we have. So it's like, you know, how do you build, even infrastructure wise? I'm creating Soko on AWS, a primarily white-owned infrastructure. We don't have our own anything, and we're trying to create things on top of things that weren't for us in the first place. So it's like trying to figure out, you know, how do you create the foundation before you get into like the other things on top of it, if that makes sense.
This is why we got to talk to each other. We got to talk to each other. We got to put that stuff together.
I was just getting ready to say that we definitely do, because actually I do a lot of stuff on AWS as well, because I have a social media platform as well, and I do a lot of stuff on AWS. And I'm like, wow, everybody's out here putting out these funds. Amazon need to be putting out, you know, some free server resources to just regular people, you know what I mean? Because I've seen many of cohorts where they'll say, oh, we'll give you $10,000 worth of Amazon services, but I'm not in a cohort. You know what I mean? I'm not in a incubator or anything like that. I actually have a product out, you know, but I sure could use $10,000 or a year worth of Amazon services. I'm gonna put that out there. Maybe somebody will hear that. I could.
Well, I was about to say
a year worth of Amazon services, especially after my first bill came to me. So, you know, these may even seem like little things because it's not coming out of anybody's pocket, but, you know, per se, but there are a lot of worthy things that can be invested in the community that we could take advantage of, you know. And sometimes you don't know until you know. Like me, I knew when I knew. I was like, wow, I could have really used some money for Amazon, you know what I mean? Or I could really just use some server resources. I don't even need no money. Just give me some server resources. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that. There's things out there and things that we can disrupt if we can go to these places. Like I know Facebook is about to do something. They haven't announced how they're going to do this so-called $1 billion distributions that they're going to do, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come in the form of ad credits or something like that. You know what I mean? But you know, that's great and all, but you know, and then there's other big tech giants that could potentially give credits to, you know, Microsoft allotting credits to even kids to be able to get computers, as now they all got to do digital learning. So, you know, where are they getting these computers to do digital learning? You know what I mean? I mean, just all of that. So, you know, there's plenty of spaces to fit in and to be able to be a huge, you know, help to the community.
Shameless plug, I'm gonna just throw in there the Black Startup Collective with our scholarships with GSV Labs. There are a number of credits that you can take advantage of. They have so many different perks, and we do have a few still available. So if you go on to sign up, and I'll drop the link in here as well. Sign up under the Black Startup Collective. I will send you that link and connect you with GSV, and we'll get you that credit.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you. Very, very great.
Yeah, those are some awesome next steps. And definitely if you guys have links, drop them to me. I'll put them in the description of the video and on the website. And to throw it to the blockchain audience, the audience that might be watching, DYOR. Come on, guys, do your own research, right? That's what we, you know, that's one of the acronyms we use in the industry. So for the people watching, dig in and learn yourself and find what you can do to help by the resources that are out there. So all very valid points. And a lot of the problems with blockchain solutions is they're not gaining adoption because maybe they are just for fun projects and they're not oriented around solutions. Right. And so you made a great point there to fund these type of projects that are solution oriented coming out of the diverse and Black communities here. So with that, very excited to move to the next phase of this presentation. Tavano, you want to do the GUAP Coin demo now? You can share your screen. The option should be available. Yes. And let's get ready to learn.
Absolutely.
And another point about funding. So we do have the demo on the donation link that we're going to show at the end of this too. So everyone watching, stay tuned for that.
While the screen share sets up, I just thought I would add one quick thought to that conversation that went on just about door opening. Sometimes the littlest things, when you think about what kind of a connection you can make or an you know, introduction or a resource, it can open up a whole new world. So to your question earlier, Kenneth, about what can white allies do to help move things forward. I might not be able to speak to that specifically, but as a female entrepreneur, as you know, it's hard to get funding. Those things really add up. So I think that's probably some universal thoughts. If those opportunities come up, work moves forward. I see the screen's up now. I just thought I'd add that in the interim.
So, GUAP Coin. So I mentioned that we pretty much have built out a really, really good ecosystem. So what I'll do is I'll touch on some of the ecosystems that we've already built out and where to start, et cetera. So of course you want to start on the website. It's guapcoin.org, not .com. Somebody had posted .com, but guapcoin.org, because we kind of, when you start out with a blockchain and you're trying to create something decentralized, of course you kind of start out a little centralized, but then you want to move towards being an organization that's inclusive and everybody's participating, et cetera. So we've already made that shift over to being an organization. We also have a foundation now. We have the GWAP Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation. And we have about 40 foundation members. We have a board. We have all of that going on. I'm still trying to get everybody like as gung-ho as I am to be in front of the camera, but it was hard enough to get me in front of the camera. And that's another thing with us, honestly, with just people of color. Like, we're not, you know, we're not all Hollywood, you know what I mean? And a lot of us, you know, we're coming from tech and we're behind the computer. This is a big step to all of a sudden put your face out there in a brand new territory, you know, on both sides. So, you know, that has been another thing that I've kind of dealt with, you know, our organization, our community, getting people to put themselves out there, you know what I mean? So this is the website. When you come to the website, one of the first things you're going to want to do when you get into GWAP is to get one of our wallets. And of that, we have wallets for every platform. It took us a while to get there. But that was one of our main missions, is to make sure we had every wallet for everywhere, including an Android and an iOS wallet. And all of this with very little money and funding. Understand, you know, getting this type of development. Yes, I do development. I never made an iOS and Android wallet before, you know what I mean? So once you get to the point of where you're creating wallets after doing the blockchain, you have to support that, support the people, stuff like that. You just have no time. But ultimately, I was blessed with being able to have a great team that could do these things, you know what I mean? And affordably. So we have Windows wallet, we have the Android wallet, we have what's called a paper wallet. And I'm going to explain all of these wallets real quick too, if you don't know. The Windows wallets are what's called a full node wallet. So when you download a Windows wallet or a Mac wallet, you're actually downloading the whole entire copy of the blockchain. You know what I mean? So this is something that almost kind of runs a lot of resources on your computer. However, why does somebody want to download a Windows or Mac wallet? Well, you might want to do something called staking. And staking is almost like having a savings account. We are a proof of stake coin. So when you accumulate a certain amount of coins and you actually hold them in your wallet, you're incentivized for that. You're paid for that. You're paid in GWAP coins. So if you're somebody that is thinking about, hey, I want to make more GWAP, then you're going to download one of these wallets and you're going to acquire coins, which I'll talk about in a second, and then you're going to stake them in your wallet. And I'll pull up my wallet. This is one of my wallets here. And this is the Windows wallet that we have. This is version 2.0. We had a 1.0 and now we have a 2.0, which is a better wallet. And that's how all the blockchains began. Bitcoin had the crappiest wallet at first. It would take you all day to sync the blockchain. I've been there, you know, and when you're lucky enough to get a sync going, you're like clapping your hands like, wow, this is the thing. But can you imagine doing that now? But every blockchain that comes out, they go through this evolution process. So we're already at a really great place in thing. I wanted to make sure somebody wasn't trying to tell me I'm talking too much in the chat. Oh, okay. I saw my chat beeping up. But so within this wallet, you can do things like you can send and receive transactions. You can review your transaction history. You can stake your coins, and you can even see your staking rewards. This particular wallet I have is a dummy demonstration wallet, so you don't see I don't have any stakes. I'm not staking anything right now. But again, this is a way to grow your guap, as we say. And this is the full shebang. So then you have what is called a paper wallet. And a paper wallet is a cold storage wallet. So all it's doing is giving you an address and a private key. You can print that off. You can put it in your safe. You can put it somewhere safe. You could tattoo it on your arm, whatever. It's not on the computer. And it's probably the most safest way to store your coins, because no one, once you get it, once you print it off, that's it. It's not held anywhere. It's not in a wallet. It's just sitting out there wherever you choose to put it, and your money is safe. So this is cold storage. So we have that availability as well. And you can create as many wallet addresses as you want. One of the problems that we've had with people is they don't understand the decentralized nature of crypto, of this blockchain. So they think that when you create one wallet, it's connected to another and another. So we get that all the time. They'll be like, well, how come I can't see my balance from here and here and here? And they don't understand that this is a decentralized economy, and that actually makes it very safe. You know what I mean? Because when it's decentralized, then it's less points of failure, less points of where you can possibly lose your funds, because your funds are going to be in multiple places. So we have the paper wallet. Then we have the Apple and Android wallet, which I can't share because it's on Apple and Android. And the Apple and Android is actually a light client. It does not download the whole blockchain to your phone, but it's our easiest entryway for newbies, because everybody's using their phones. So we tell them at least download the GUAP Coin wallet from the Apple store, or download the GUAP Coin wallet from the Android store. So this just generated me an address because I clicked on it. So, you know, real quick, this is your public address and this is your private address. You don't share your private address. You don't share your private keys. You don't even have to hold on to this. As long as you have your private key, that's a way to retrieve your funds. So if you want to import this into your wallet, you can import it into your desktop and add your funds to your desktop wallet that way. So that's one way. So the next thing is, this is our Block Explorer. A lot of people don't know what a Block Explorer is, but of course, it's the beautiful way of seeing the transparency of the blockchain. This shows all the transactions on the blockchain. This shows the market value of GUAP, which is connected into Probit, which is the exchange I'm going to take you to. This shows you how many master nodes we had, because I talked about our governance, and I talked about those people who are making GUAP just by having master nodes. Though that's how many master nodes we have out there, 439, which is a lot and which is pretty good. This also shows you the average block time in blockchains. You know, a block is created however many seconds that blockchain is dictating, and ours is supposed to be 60 seconds. So that's the length of a transaction. So our transactions are very fast. Hold on one second. I'm in a thing. I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. I'm sorry. My kids are coming in. Hold on one second. I'm in a thing. My kids are coming in my door now. Like everybody's rushing in, like mommy, mommy, mommy. But so this is where you do your, and this is what I go through all the time when I have meetings. Like, oh, okay, here comes the kid rush. Which one's coming in? But this is all of the data, the initial data. But I told you we're working on a dashboard that's going to be more specific, more visual, and easier to see transactions going between merchants and consumers. So the next thing is, how do you actually get some coins? So there's two ways of getting coins. You can go to the exchange and you can trade your Bitcoin and get coins. But Bitcoin is the daddy, and then you have every other coin that's the altcoin. In order to get to those altcoins, you have to get to Bitcoin. So because Bitcoin is like becoming like the digital standards, becoming like the money standard. So it connects to more off cryptocurrency platforms. So now you can get Bitcoin on Cash App. And that's actually how we tell a lot of people to get Bitcoin these days. We tell them to go to Cash App. It's the easiest way. You can thank the founder of Twitter. You can thank the founder of Cash App for making it so easy. Unfortunately, it's not so easy to get it off. So you can buy a certain amount, but you can't really, you know, pull a whole great deal out of it. But it's a start. So if you want to get Bitcoin because you want to get GUAP Coin, or you want to trade and you don't want to get other GUAP, other coins, you're going to get your Bitcoin from Cash App. So we're on Probit. Probit is an exchange, one of the exchanges that we're on. We went through many tier 3, 4. These are like entry-level exchanges to get to Probit. A lot of the exchanges that we dealt with, that you will deal with when you come into this space, are very scammy. You know what I mean? So the thing is, you know, you start dealing with them and then they're dealing with your audience. So your audience becomes your babies. You don't want to send them to people that they're going to have a whole ton of problems. And that's a problem that we have in the Black and Brown community. You definitely don't want to send Black folks to a website where they're going to have a whole bunch of problems. That's going to kill whatever it is that you're trying to work on right away. Trust is a big thing. So we chose Probit because we established a very good trust relationship. They catered to us and they attended to us very quickly. They're very responsive. So we were like, they're great. And they're based out of Korea. So you're gonna get an account here, and the account process signing up is very fast. And then you're going to log in and you're going to deposit some coins to your account. So like I said, I'll just log in really quick. You're gonna log in and I don't really use this, like, so it's okay. So you're gonna log in, you're gonna go to wallet, and you're gonna go to deposit. Right? So if you bought some coins from Cash App, then you're gonna pull up your Bitcoin wallet, which is BTC. You're gonna click on that and it's gonna give you a deposit address. So you're gonna essentially withdraw your Bitcoin from your Cash App onto this exchange using this deposit address, and you can use the QR code. A lot of people we find are confused about QR codes. They don't realize that it's going to take another phone to scan a QR code. So what we normally have with our own wallets is we tell somebody, send me your GUAP address. What do? They send their QR code. I can't scan the QR code in my hand. You know, I need another phone to do that. So I had to do a whole video on that to tell people, like, look, you need to send me the actual address, not the QR code. So, you know, they're little things. But these are little things that can be a barrier that can take 30 minutes to an hour and kind of get people discouraged. So they would deposit their coins here, and then they would go straight to the exchange and start trading. And in this example, I actually have GUAP saved. So this is the trading for GUAP. And yes, it looks very intimidating for newbies. One of the most intimidating things ever. Hold on, you guys, one quick second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing with new traders. It's like, if they don't already understand the language and the different intricacies, like a QR code, a wallet address, they seem to get very discouraged very quickly, and can, you know, the simplest roadblock can throw them off the track.
Yes, the simplest thing. And that's why with GUAP Coin, one of the things that sets us aside from other blockchains is we had to have real people customer service. And you're looking at one of the biggest help that's supporting people in the world right now. Hello. Yes, you get Savannah Evans when you try to get support. I've done it since day one and I haven't stopped. You know, like, I know people are always shocked. They're like, oh my God, you're the founder? I'm like, this is you? And you're like, yes, I'm doing support. I need to help you. How can I help you? And you don't get that with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or anything else. So I feel that if we're gonna have mass adoption and you're dealing with regular people, you're gonna have to do some customer service. You know, you're gonna have to do some tech support, because people they're not gonna understand it, you know, right away. So once you're in Probit and you already got your balance, that's when you can start buying GUAP coins. And you have an order book here. You know what I mean? So you can literally click on and sometimes it's confusing because they're looking at it in Bitcoin and say, well, how much is that worth in USD? Well, the beautiful thing is there's a stable token, USDT, that can give you the approximate US value when you're looking at it. So of how much something is. So it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not as bad. And the good news is with GUAP Coin is we're launching our own exchange in 2 weeks called Carry. And the reason that we decided to do our own exchange is because we need to simplify it, number one, and we need to be able to help people, number two, and we need to be able to make money so we can continue to do these things. You know what I mean? I can't sit here, I can't have a customer service person helping somebody through another platform while they're making money. We have no money and we're trying to operate. You know, so one of the things that people know about me, Tavana Evans, is I'm serious about the fact that we need money. You know what I mean? My values are good. So I know that we're not going to be sitting here in the dark with no internet trying to do these things to help people. So again, that's why we decided that we needed our own exchange so that we could put these resources to it as well. So I'm not going to hold y'all up much longer, but this is just a little bit. And another thing is we're on coin payments. And coin payments is wonderful because it gives us plugins to allow merchants to be able to accept GUAP Coin. So if you have a Shopify store, you have a WooCommerce, and even if you have a regular store, there's even like a cut and paste kind of code that you can just create a pay button. And if you say, hey, I want to accept GUAP Coin, boom, you can accept GUAP Coin. So this is one thing that we've already put out to help the ecosystem. We're coming out with debit cards, both regular debit cards and Visa backed debit cards within the next 60 days. And we're about to launch a crowdfund on iFund Women, where people are going to be able to come and order their cards or order a point of sales device just by giving to our campaign. So that's it. That's GUAP Coin in a nutshell. I tried to get it all up in there. It's a lot.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And I'm glad that you were able to make those announcements that the exchange is coming in 2 weeks and then the debit card is coming within, 60 days. That's huge. That's a lot of ecosystems wish they had that kind of stuff.
Right. And we got a couple of things up our sleeve. We when you focus on mass adoption, the mass adoption tools come to you. So that's we're probably more focused on mass adoption than most people are. And that means that we got to start with the regular people. My grandmother is 97 years old and she knows about GUAP Coin and she wants to know when she can use it and how she can use it and what it's worth and all of that. My kids, they know about GUAP Coin. So I get to practice mass adoption in my household and that's how I do.
I think we need to start integrating payments to be accepted on cryptoliveleak.org and blockrelations.com with GUAP.
Awesome.
I think that's the next step for us.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for sharing this demo here, Tavana. And I wonder if there's any questions from the audience, ask now. We're getting some feedback from Lindsay in the YouTube chat, and she's just positive commentary here. Everyone's doing amazing, so inspiring. So just affirmation that we're doing a great job here. Everyone is, your time has been much appreciated. So let's get into the last few demos here. Benton, did you have that list up that we wanted to share?
Yeah, definitely. Let me get that up real quick.
Okay. Tavana, could you turn off the screen share there?
Let's see here.
And the cool thing about this, what we're doing now, is this video is on YouTube. It's being live streamed and it's going to be there to live forever. And then I'm also going to get you guys the raw footage over afterwards so you can do whatever you please with it, maybe put it on your site and have it as a highlight.
Here we go. All right. This is actually a list, and I can paste the link, copy the link, and share this with everyone. But this is a list of Black-owned restaurants. And they also have Black-owned stores here in the Boston area. Just kind of scrolling through. I actually ordered food from, let me see, it was Rock City Pizza last week. So shout out Rock City Pizza. I actually found them out from this list and I was like, you know what? I want to support my local Black-owned business. And I did so. So we'll post this up. There's also a list of, let me see, Black-owned businesses here in Boston too. I'm sure there is other cities that are doing this. So if you're viewing this and not in the Boston area, we can definitely post other resources. So, or if you're watching this and you have resources, please feel free to share them with us. We thought this was really cool to be able to have this and allocate it all in one place so that if you want to support your Black community around you and near you, you know how to do that, whether that's shopping at a Black-owned store or restaurant. And this is something that we obviously value here at Crypto Live Leak and Block Relations. we want to be an advocate and support our Black community members. So this is a great way to do it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that too. And I'll go into the last thing we wanted to share before we do our closing remarks. So this is the donation function. Let's see, I'm not too familiar with screen share. Let's see if I can bring this up. Okay. So this is our website here. It's blockrelations.com. If you just go over to the events tab, you'll be able to go to all our block. This is our first event that we hosted officially with Block Relations guys. We've only been around for 4 months. So this is really historic for us, and we're happy that this is how we were able to burst onto the event scene virtually. So here's the donation function. Once you get into the All Our Block page, you'll be able to just click this. And again, this link was generated from the Giving Block, which is a organization that helps people arrange for cryptocurrency donations to nonprofits. And here you'll see a list of, it's almost like a basket of Black-owned businesses and Black nonprofits that they've already vetted and added into this basket. So you can pick and choose. There's 6 of them here, which one you want to donate cryptocurrency to. So you have Black Girls Code, Movement for Black Lives, the Bail Project, National Black Chamber of Commerce, Justice Committee, Nashville Community Bond Fund. So how this works is, you just get this out of the way, is you just click Add to Cart. And you'll see here, it arranges a little drop-down list on the right side. And they should be accepting GUAP Coin for this, right? Like, I'm going to put you in contact with the Giving Block after this, Tavana, because I looked for GUAP Coin on the list. I don't think I see it, though. So for our example, I'll just do ETH. I'm going to do Black Girls Code, 0.01 ETH. So you have to have an extension. I have Dapper Wallet, DAPPER. It's a Chrome extension. It's an Ethereum wallet. So you have to have that, and you have to have an account on GitHub to make this work properly. So you click checkout. It's almost like you're just buying something from a shopping cart. And then from here, it gives you a summary of what you're donating. So I'm donating 0.01 Ethereum to Black Girls Code. They also have a matching amount. So they match, looks like at this point, they're matching 37 DAI to my 0.01 Ethereum. So that's great. This is about $40 in the donation here. You can hide your wallet address, so this can remain anonymous. And there is a small fee given to the Gitcoin maintainer grants. So Gitcoin is actually the site that this donation is going through. So it's linked to your GitHub account. So fund one item, you click that button, and now it's basically sending the transaction to the wallet. So I'll open up the wallet, enter the password, if I can remember it. Oh, sorry guys, let me make sure I can remember the password there. You should always write your passwords down. That should be it. Okay, so back to this fund one item. You have to be logged into your wallet for this to trigger. Action pending. So with the Ethereum network, you get some lags. So what could be happening here is I have a pending transaction that's sort of stalling the wallet. So let me try this again. Let me just start from the beginning and try this again to see if we can get it to go through. Checkout, just like you're ordering a t-shirt or something, right? And fund one item, should create a new request. There we go, since I'm logged into the wallet. Cool thing about Dapper Wallet is they cover your network fees when making transactions. They do a certain amount of free transactions per week. So as you know, transaction fees can add up over time. And if you're getting 3 per week, that could equal a free $2 or so, right? So hit confirm, and you'll actually be able to see this transaction on the blockchain. So that's it. Saving contributions, contributions saved. You have donated 0.01 Ethereum plus 37.32 DAI as a match to Black Girls Code. So we just made a $40 cryptocurrency donation to one of those organizations. So that's pretty cool, guys. I'm going to stop sharing. And I hope other audience members out there watching can go to that link, again, blockrelations.com/events, and can make a donation to help support those organizations. And, you know, hopefully soon we can get GUAP Coin on that list of accepted cryptocurrencies too. So thank you so much, everyone. That's it for today. We hit right around that 2-hour mark, so we did great. I actually want to throw this over to Benton, since he was a very large force behind the organization, the concept, confirming with the panelists. He basically did all of the heavy lifting for this event. So Benton, do you want to give a final word, closing statement here?
Just very thankful for everyone here sharing your thoughts, your wisdom, learning everything that I can that from you guys. I know I've spoken with several of you before. Tavana, we've had an interview, in Victoria as well. Just want to take time out to thank you guys. If you guys have not, check out Bitcoin Black America. This is a great book. I love it. Support your Black community. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. And be sure to follow Block Relations, Crypto Live Leak, and then we'll also post all the links in the description for all these wonderful companies and projects that we have here today. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. Until next time.